TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Stallion Line of David, a Grade 1 winner from the family of Mr. Prospector. Watch for his first 2-year-olds in 2014.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. I want to go ahead and recap last weekend's races, and let's start in New York at the Wood Memorial. You know, we had our new number one that was running in here. We were a little concerned, lightly raced. How would he handle that big stage? Joel, I think he washed out, and it really cost him in the race.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lightly raced colt, you know, like Constitution. We like some of these lightly raced colts this year, John, but you never know how they're going to act when they have to get out of their environment for the first time. Him traveling from Florida to New York clearly didn't handle the paddock experience. I don't know if he saw the pre-race antics.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to watch him in the race. I thought he ran a good race. But him in the paddock and the way he acted, certainly he was not adapting well. He was not acting well in the post-parade. Very concerning. I went from wanting to bet on him to, no, let's just watch. And luckily, that was the case. I mean, I thought he carved out a good trip. He broke a little outward from the 11 hole, which, you know, for a lightly raced colt can be expected. May have lost a little ground there, but I thought he carved out a pretty good trip. I thought the pace was, you know, moderate. I certainly didn't think it was a taxing type pace. And when he opened up kicking for home, I thought we could see a show, John. But clearly, when he straightened out, swapped his left lead, he fell apart. Thought he just gutted it out with his cruising speed. You know, wasn't able to hold off second. There was Samrot running his typical race. But, you know, take nothing away from your winner. Wicked Strong, John, off the pace. Here's a colt that loves Aqueduct. I mean, everybody really jumped on his bandwagon after his final 8th performance in the Remsen as a 2-year-old. Yeah. Went down to Gulfstream and just did not have a very good meet. Probably didn't like that racetrack. Didn't like the fact that he's an off-the-pace type colt trying to run over speed bias track. You know, the reason I kind of questioned how good Wicked Strong was all the way along is, you know, I thought Mexicoma and Toneless clearly outfinished him, you know, behind Constitution when Wicked Strong fired in that allowance race at Gulfstream. But he clearly showed he likes Aqueduct. That final run he made in there, got a 103 Brisnet number. I mean, that's a strong number, John. We're finally seeing the numbers kind of creep up over the century mark now in these final preps. So it was a legitimate race for Wicked Strong. Question for him now is, he's a big-time contender, should love a mile and a quarter. He's a closer. That's great. Everything looks good on paper. Is he really a top-class colt on a neutral surface like Churchill? We know he likes Aqueduct. Can he now go on the road and replicate that at Churchill Downs?
There's another horse that's going to have to prove if he can replicate his performances, you know, at Churchill Downs. He's going to have to go on the road, and that's your Santa Anita Derby winner, Joel. California Chrome. A lot of question marks, you know, this California bred, maybe his sire's not, you know, he's not a Kentucky bred type horse, you know,
Sure.
a blue blood. But Joel, he really looks like he has some serious talent. He showed it in the Santa Anita Derby.
Yeah, once they run, I don't get into that breeding stuff unless it's to tell how much stamina they may have, John. I mean, he's clearly a good colt. He was a good colt at 2. Just nothing compared to what he is now at 3. He's that developing 3-year-old, John. You see here in the Santa Anita Derby on the Twin Spires TV race replay, you see he's already broke this race wide open. You'll see here at 16th pole, whoop, rider saves something. Lets off the gas. He's so far in front, he's basically at a walk by the time he hits the wire. No gallop out at all. You know, Opportunity behind him at second there, gallops out way past him. Opportunity ran about the same even race he did in the Risen Star. Makes me wonder how good that Rebel was now on that you know, quirky, sloppy track. But when I look at California Chrome, John, I'm not so sure this is the greatest prep for him. You know, he really didn't get many hard races, and for him to be pulled up, really never run beyond a mile and a 16th. Now have to run a mile and a quarter, run all the way to the wire. I mean, no gallop out here. So I know, you know, a lot of people say, well, maybe he's saving something. I know you're going to be your favorite. I still question whether or not he is a legitimate Derby favorite at this point.
All right, well, let's take
I know he's going to be your favorite. Don't get me wrong, but I just wonder if the quality's really there once he gets away from Santa Anita.
Well, let's take a look at TCI Top 10 real quick, and let's just see where he landed after that performance. Did he take the number 1 spot? Clearly he didn't. Constitution still in at number 1. California Chrome in at number 2. Joel, you know, I don't see anything on here in the top 5 that I really question. I guess Social Inclusion being in at the number 5 spot would be my only question.
And he'll probably be out if he doesn't get in. We'll find out in a few
he
weeks.
might not have enough points.
Sure.
You know, if we can look now from 6 through 10, I do have one question for you. Wicked Strong, Wood Memorial winner, very impressive. He's in at the number 7 spot. We just mentioned, you know, there's a few horses above him that might not even get enough points to get into the Derby. So that, you know, I question the number 7 just a little bit there for him.
Sure, and I'm sure this list will change a lot, and we'll see what happens this weekend. If Conquest Titan, I mean, if he doesn't get the points, he's off the list. You know, there can be attrition, there can be, you know, decision. Ring weekend can skip the Derby. I mean, there can be a lot of decisions made and things that'll happen that we're just not sure of the outlook of the 20 yet. Once we get, you know, a firmer look at what the 20 is probably going to be, then we'll certainly take horses like, you know, K-Royal Prince off if he doesn't look like he's going to make it and so forth. I do think they're up against it. But for now, I don't really like anything else to move into the top 10. So I'm going to keep them on just on their talent and the fact that I do think they're top class.
All right, let's move on to this weekend then, and let's talk about the historic Bluegrass Stakes. The reason I call it historic, Joel, this may be the last time that we see this race on the synthetic surface. They may go back to dirt, but this year it's going to be run on synthetic. And Joel, we see a lot of turf horses coming in here like we always do. You know, one thing though I am interested in is VINCEREMOS. He's a horse that has some dirt class. We saw him train this morning. He really got over that track. Joel, he's an interesting player for me.
And it will be the last year on Polytrack, and I invite that. You know, Bluegrass is the key race at Keeneland, and it hasn't been a good Derby prep because it's synthetic. The better dirt horses don't run here, John. I certainly think now, with it going back to dirt, you'll start seeing the better dirt horses prep now at Keeneland. So I'm excited about that. In here you get 14. It's a great betting race because you got a lot of people taking a shot with turf horses, horses that maybe are cut below on the dirt, just trying something else, trying to find a way into the Derby, John. So it's a wide open race. You mentioned VINCEREMOS. He's probably the, you know, one horse, or maybe there's a couple horses in here, but really he's the main horse for me that has any real quality dirt for him. So if he were to run well in here and earn his way into the Derby, he might be a horse that you take away from the performance and say, okay, well, maybe he has a shot to make an impact in the Kentucky Derby. Bobby's Kitten's your favorite. Very talented horse, don't get me wrong. But if he were to win this race, you know, with his turf background, to me, he just is another Polytrack turf kind of horse in the Derby, one that doesn't have a real shot of winning it. And that's just my opinion. So, again, what's going to be the takeaway on a lot of these horses coming back? I mean, I like medal count quite a bit. I don't like it
on 1 week's rest.
Well, I don't like them coming back on a week's rest. I personally thought they should have skipped that race and just run him right into the Bluegrass. I mean, he has a great synthetic pedigree. Definitely no question that, you know, Romans has been high on the colt. I think he can come back and make an impact on this race based on what they say, you know, in terms of how he's doing, John. But, you know, again, if he were to win this and run back in the Derby, that'd be his third race in 4 weeks. That's just tough. So be interested to see what happens here. There's a lot of intriguing horses that make sense as synthetic horses. Do they make sense as Kentucky Derby contenders?
All right, well, let's talk about a race then that's on the dirt, and Joel has proven to be a very good Derby prep, and that is the Arkansas Derby. A lot of horses with talent in here. Tapiture, obviously. We got Conquest Titan running in here. And we see Commissioner taking another shot in here after a disappointing performance in the Sunland Derby. They added blinkers. Joel, the horse broke bad. He lost a shoe. He had some excuses. You think he's got a shot here in the Arkansas Derby?
Well, this is the last key Derby prep for me that I really think is the final piece to the puzzle, because I think it's a fair race. You have a lot of quality speed, and you have some very interesting off-the-pace type horses. You mentioned Commissioner, John. I mean, just look back a few months ago. He beat Top Billing at Gulfstream.
Yeah.
And, you know, Commissioner, certainly his last time out, third in the Sunland Derby, had no shot there. Adding blinkers, speed bias type track. You know, certainly when he ran the Fountain Youth, speed bias type track, he found himself way back on the inside there. So I think now with Mike Smith, he has a fair shot to put in a closing move here, and he should get enough pace in front. I mean, look at Mark Cassidy. He entered Thundergram. It looks like a rabbit to me to go along with Bayern, Bob Baffert's colt with a ton of speed, strong mandate, outside speed, been a free-running colt even though he's been disappointing. You know, Knock 'em Flat's another horse breaking from the inside that, you know, has a lot of pace and looks like he needs to be forwardly placed. So I think the speed's going to be on. I think Tapiture's going to get a perfect trip on the inside sitting off of it. He's been the best colt at Oaklawn all meet long. I think Tapiture's your horse to beat with that tactical ability. But I'm interested to see how the closers run. Commissioner here, you know, son of AP Indy, finally stretching out, you know, to a 1 1/8 fair racetrack. You could see him being a 1 1/4 colt that loves Churchill Downs with that pedigree. And Conquest Titan, a horse in our top 5. Horse that is underachieved to be in that top 5. But John, if he returns to form, runs back to his Churchill allowance win, runs back to the Holy Bull, and makes that one strong run with Calvin Burrell with a legitimate track, legitimate pace scenario, I think Conquest Titan a very interesting horse. So to me, I think this is a major piece to the puzzle of the Arkansas Derby as we look forward to Louisville.
All right, thank you, Joel, and thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll see how these 2 last major Derby preps shake out the TCI Top 10.